Mike Alcoholic. That reminds me of that movie with, I can't remember the lady, but she was in that movie with James Caan, Misery, the one that knocked him in the ankle. Whatever her name is. Anyway, she's driving this car, and this young girl disrespects her, and she smashes your car. And she gets out and she says, I got more insurance. Boy, she messes her up. Oh, yeah. So what I got out of the topic, and I like what I just heard too, because what do we do when somebody just keeps on and on? Am I to keep turning the cheek? Am I not worth defending? And that's really the tack, that the direction I would like to take, because I would like to share with y'all how spiritual I am, and it don't matter what goes on, that I don't get mad and all that. But you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to talk about the direction I want to talk about, and it lends itself to part of the topic, because evidently in the topic the boss lady kept on, and eventually you have enough. And it reminds me in the book where it talks about on 83 that we're to be tactful, sensible, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. We're children of God. We don't crawl before anyone. And I had to look up and understand what scraping was. Scraping is looking for a fight. And servile is just letting them do whatever they want and not saying nothing. So what the book is telling me is that I need balance. And eventually, at some point, it would be okay for me to stand up for myself and not crawl. But the real question is, how do I do that? You know, in the 12 and 12 on 90, where it talks about the spiritual axiom, and it talks about whenever I'm disturbed, there's something wrong with me. And then it says, what about justifiable anger? This dangerous exception, meaning it's an exception. Interestingly enough. And it says I'm supposed to turn it over to somebody better able to handle it. Well, I would like y'all to tell me who I can turn my anger over to in this room. Well, reality is I've got to handle my anger, and God's got to help me handle it, because He's looking for me to do the footwork from the direction He gives me. So when is it okay for me to take up for myself, and how do I take up for it when obviously enough's enough, and like the yard situation or the employer situation, somebody's kept on and on. I think it'd probably be easier to turn the cheek with one little instance. Well, what about if something happens over and over? When is it okay? And I can tell you from being an old-timer here that eventually you're going to think enough of yourself that you're worth taking up for. Now, when I got here, I could probably see, I didn't think I was worth taking up for. You can just do whatever. I'm a piece of junk. I deserve it. But that's not going to be the message on down the line. You know, it reminds me of, and I really wanted to take the tact of, let's switch gears, let's say it's a family member that's continuing to bash me for something I did in the past. And I don't know why, but the fella to the left there that shared made me think he was referring to a family member that keeps on and on. Remember when you did that? Remember when you did that? And let's say it's years later. Remember when you did that? And it's like, wait a minute, I ain't done that in so-and-so. And how do you handle it? And especially I've heard, it's funny when you hear a newcomer with 30 days say, well, my family member reminded me, and I just don't understand why they're not taking me serious this time, and they're an asshole, and they're wanting the whole room to co-sign that BS. Well, the truth of the matter is that at 30 days, they probably have a reason to be pissed. And the newcomer needs to eat a little crow. But let's say I'm just full of crow. And it reminds me of something Joe and Charlie said on his tapes. And this was way back in the day. I got the original Joe and Charlie tapes, and it's really good. I highly suggest it. And he talks about how his wife, after he had almost 10 years, he had 7, he said. And here she comes with that same old stuff. And he had this classic set of lines that really will put that stuff to bed. And I'm going to share it with you. And I call it the trump card. And it really works, but it'll only work once. And I think it's classic and it's gold. Because very rarely when a family member is trying to browbeat me with that, do I simply own it. And what he said was, it had 4 parts and I had to memorize it. And here she comes and she says what she says. And he says, yeah, I did it. God willing, it won't be repeated. And I think I've paid for it. And if you're going to keep making me pay for it, we're going to have a damn problem. Okay, now you see why the first 3 will work on dang near any situation. Yeah, I did it. And I believe I'm paying for it. And God willing, I won't do it again. See, that's not writing a check my ass can't cash. That's not saying I'll never do that again. See, it's so subtle. But that last one, the reason if I throw that last one in, they'll never listen to me again. Because if I say, if you keep beating me with this, we're going to have a problem. Now, if I get drunk next week, I don't need to be coming back because the trump card only works once in life. So I'm going to let you know that there's that trump card. And if you're tired of old family member coming at you, go throw them 4 things out at them. But just know this, if you get drunk behind that, you might as well eat crow for the rest of your life. But the thing about it is that what the good news is that this program helps me to not have to worry about that problem because it keeps me sober for the rest of my life, one day at a time. Shows me how to deal with challenges appropriately. Shows me that eventually I will be worth taking up for, but shows me how to take up for myself appropriately. Because the idea that I'm never going to get angry in recovery, I've been here going on, I just won't even waste your time telling you how long. I still get angry. Anybody that claims they don't get angry, I'm going to have to worry about them or worry on what kind of dope they're on. Okay? So the reality is things are going to come up. But the real meat of this topic is, how do we handle these challenges? And when is it okay to speak up for myself? I just wanted to throw that out there, the trump card, and sometimes there is an exception to me just turning the other cheek 1,000 times. But I just wanted to go in a little different direction because sometimes the whole meeting can be taken up by people telling how spiritual they are, and no matter what happens. I'm still striving to get there, but I'm not there yet. I still get hot sometimes. I'll pass.